Let's take a breath together. Actually, I don't need anything that's there right now. Naturally divine. I think this is probably the richest area for us to explore because most of us, self included, get really distracted in the distortion of what is our nature. How many of you have thought or heard someone else say, or even said yourself, when something comes up in your life that doesn't exactly resonate, we default to, well, that's just my nature. Anybody else? Human nature. There's no such thing as human nature. There is human conditioning. But our only true nature is divinity. And divinity, I default to, I believe it was Thomas Troward who originally said it, and then Ernest Holmes repeated it. Principle is not bound by precedent. Principle, unchanging truth, is not bound by precedent. And I had an awareness this morning that everything I experience in this human realm immediately becomes precedent. Immediately. Right? Because everything I just said up until now is now in the past. That's the precedent. That my whole human experience, other than this moment, is one of precedent. So it can't be bound. The essence of me cannot be bound by that. And when we think about this idea of human nature, what we're really talking about is generational human precedent. Generational human thought patterns that most of us fall into living, and it's those places within us that we have no idea where it came from, right? We just have a way of moving about the world because it's always been this way, right? It was that way when we were physically born. We were raised with it, and no one told us this isn't how it has to be. No one told us as they were educating us that everything you think right now is subject to revision, especially what you think you know about the truth. Everything is up for revision. And in fact, in our divine nature, which is creation, which is a continuous thing. See, creation doesn't happen and then stop, and then happen and then stop. Creation started and it's been continuous ever since. In the eternality of life, think about it. If creation stopped, then what? Right? We are the activity of creation. There's no stopping in it. If we get that, then we understand that we are continuously evolving. That as individualized, divine ideas, divine smiles, I love to think of it that way, that we are each a divine smile in the heart of creation to experience itself as each of us. That's how it expands its experience of itself. That's how vital you are to the whole. Everything you think, every breath you take, every move you make, every decision. And here's where the paradox comes. We analyze and scrutinize and judge and condemn and every once in a while celebrate our decisions. in the human realm. The divine just celebrates. There's no condemnation in what created us. It quite literally, as I understand it and have experienced it, divinity doesn't care what we do. It doesn't care. It doesn't have a checklist. Unlike many of us were taught, can you imagine the volumes of, what's the plan for Rafe's life? Let me just communicate this to Rafe, please, immediately. Thank you. No. We are it in form. And so its desire is us. And when we become in alignment with that, we don't have to ask somebody else what our role is on planet Earth. We don't have to search outside of ourselves to learn to hear that still small voice that we call it. It is the desire of creation wanting to create as you. There is a paradox that we live with, right? Because we have a brain that sees everything in this human realm as very finite, very defined, very categorized, very final. It's where our humanity finds its comfort zone. Right? We work really hard to get to this place, and now that I'm here, don't mess with it. That's not creation. Creation is continuous evolution. There is no stopping point. There is no arrival point. There is just continuous creation. And it makes our humanness really uncomfortable because our brain tells us there's a stopping point. So how do we bridge that gap? How do we get okay with, dare I say it, living in the mystery? Right? It's interesting. Whether it's accurate or not, I have no way of knowing. But what I know is that a whole lot of us here on planet Earth have been and continue to be praying for the healing of planet Earth. We've been praying to have changes in our social structure. We've been praying for the consciousness of humanity to shift. And then along comes this little visible to the naked eye. It's not invisible under a microscope, but it's invisible to the naked eye, this little red ball that has mushrooms on it called COVID. And what happened? Mother Nature sent us all to our rooms, and the earth instantly started healing itself. Smog in the LA basin was gone for a period of time. Suddenly, the orange sky wasn't orange for a while. We could hear all the sounds of nature differently than we heard them before because they weren't obscured by all the activity of humanity. Right? We all learned things about our spouses, those of us that were quarantining with a spouse. We all learned things about our spouses. They were like, really? Didn't know that was there. And things on both sides of the spectrum, the magnificent and the not so much magnificent. Right? We learn things about ourselves. And COVID invited us to do exactly what we say we do in this teaching, and that's to live squarely in the mystery. Because all of a sudden, most of what we thought was predictable, not so much. Not so much. So then what do? Well, we have some choices. We can choose to use all of our human effort to reclaim the past, to go backwards, to reinvent what most of us can admittedly look at and go, it didn't work anyway, right? But it was comfortable. We were comfortable in our not workingness. Or we can stand in a different place of courage. We can stand in this magnificent place of, I don't know. Three of the most powerful words I have ever strung together. I don't know. Why is that so powerful? Because the minute I allow that in, I become teachable. See, if I think I know, then I'm not going to hear those divine nudges that pull me forward. Not going to hear them because I'm not listening for that. I'm not listening for a greater expression of the divinity that was born in me. Because I know what I'm supposed to be. Here's what I know. I know that all of God is right where you are, is right where I am. Every ounce of it. And yet, individualized, I will never be all of God. I will never be all of divinity. But all of it is right here. And all of it is right there. And all of it is right there. Our community value this morning was community. Imagine the power of Centers for Spiritual Living if first we each, as individualized expressions of divinity, own our divinity, own the mystery of our creative expression, stop arguing for our limitations, and start living in our infinite possibilities until, and here's the thing, I invite you to try it for 5 years. Try it for 5 years. If it doesn't work, I promise I will gladly refund your misery. Right? Ernest Holmes, at the end of Science of Mind, says, in conclusion, I would rather someone, and this is not a direct quote, he would rather see those of us who believe these teachings prove them in our lives than to repeat everything that's ever been said by the great masters. Are we willing to do the neck up, do the study, do the inquiry, and then let it drop into your heart? Make it real. Claim your natural divinity, because it's not some big elusive thing. Each and every one of us is creation in form. That's what we are. We are the perfection of whatever this is that creates. And I notice that I look up. That's just pure conditioning from being raised Pentecostal holiness, that it's up there. Right? It's also right here. It's right here. It's everywhere present. And what if we really lean into that? That every person, every being, every object that we interact with, we interacted with it from a conscious, intentional awareness that we're interacting with divinity. Because if divinity is all there is and it's everywhere present, can it be different than that? There's nothing else to interact with, in no matter what form it is. I promise you, it will change how you see the world. It will change how you see yourself. It will change how you converse with one another. It will change. Yeah, you really want me to say that? Okay. It will change your politics. Because you'll see, in politics, just to be clear, Politics is nothing more than a system of policies that govern people. It's not a party. We've turned it into parties. We've turned it into polarization. But politics is just the policies that you support that govern humanity. And when we live in alignment with the truth of our being, what we support in this human realm changes. It just does. You might find yourself being far more moderate than liberal or progressive or conservative. You might. Because what if we all meet in the middle? What if we all listen to what's underneath the conversation? What if we meet each other in our divinity, naturally, effortlessly? There's no room for polarization in that. There's no room for othering in that. There's no room for oppression or discrimination or hate in that. And so I invite you this next week, be conscious, be intentional, be aware. Allow yourself to actually have the thought, I am interacting with my divinity. I am interacting with divinity with every breath. Spend a week there, and then come back and tell me how it went next week. So I know we're running late, and some volume of my shouldapedia tells me that's a problem, but oh well. You all know I was raised Pentecostal holiness, so if we're out of here before dinner, we're good. So, I'm going to ask Rev Madeline to turn on that mic, and I'm going to invite you, if any of you cares to share what golden nugget is alive in you this minute.
I think the golden nugget I will take is that there is no human nature, but just human condition, because our nature is divine.
Awesome. Thank you, Judy.
For me, heaven was a pleasant surprise. I love your music and the words that come from your heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm realizing again and again that I have experiences that lock in my beliefs. And when I turn to the divinity, it opens up and releases those and let me see things differently. And that has helped me tremendously.
Nice. Thank you, Mark.
Well, during the meditation, I felt the divine come and give me a big hug.
Nice. Remind me of your name? Pat. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you for helping me with spiritual drive.
Thank you. Remind me of your name again?
I'm Van with a V.
Van.
And
Thank
two,
you, Van.
two N's. You have to stretch that out a little bit. Van.
Okay, thank you, Van. Who else?
I'm left with the thought that because of the nature of divinity, I have hope for the world.
Ah, thank you. And your name again? Jean. I'm still learning some of you new folks. Thank you, Jean. Who else? Anybody else? All right. I like this new practice. Gives me some goosebumps. All right, let's take another breath together. I'm going to invite Evan back up as we shift into our time of conscious giving. I'm going to invite us, as soon as I turn the projector back on, there we go, to say our prosperity affirmation together. Here we go. I give this gift with love and joy from a consciousness of abundance. Divine love blesses and prospers all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Please receive the gifts.